My name is Viralai Ashby. I was frozen in the doorway of the private dining room on my 35th birthday. My left eye was swollen and completely shut. A big purple and black bruise spread across half my face. Dried blood stuck to my eyebrow, and my mascara had run down my cheeks in dark, messy streaks. 50 people were staring at me. They didn't say a word. Some were holding their champagne glasses halfway to their lips. It was the most awful silence I had ever felt. My parents had their arms around me like we were posing for a perfect family photo. They were smiling. Really smiling. "I know what you all are thinking," my father said loudly. "Our daughter had a little accident. Actually, her sisters finally taught her some respect." Behind us, my older sisters were barely hiding their laughter. They looked at each other like they had done something very funny and very mean at the same time. Then a small hand grabbed mine. My 9-year-old nephew was shaking. He looked up at me with big worried eyes. "I'm sorry, Aunt Viralai," he said. "Grandma told me to say you fell, but I saw them do it this morning." Before anyone could say anything, a voice came from the back of the room. "She's not the only one who grew up with bruises." Every head turned. My twin sister stepped forward, holding her phone already up, ready to record. Outside the glass doors, red and blue lights started flashing. If you've ever walked into a room full of people and realized your own family just embarrassed you in front of everyone, you might understand what I felt. My Evanderac dropped, my legs wobbled, and my heart beat faster than it ever had. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. 3 days earlier, I was still trying to convince myself my birthday would be different. I sat at the kitchen island in the house I had never been allowed to leave. I was surrounded by color-coded charts and spreadsheets for a party I didn't even want. There were seating charts, lists of people's food preferences, flower arrangements, every little thing. Every detail had to be perfect because perfection was the only armor I had left to protect myself from them. Alaric checked my personal bank account every Sunday night like clockwork. He still had the password from when I was 19 when I couldn't be trusted with money. Alara kept my passport, birth certificate, and social security card locked in a safe behind the framed family photo in their bedroom. My older sisters had stopped bothering with small insults about dusty shelves or dry chicken. They had moved on to bigger things. Soraya gave herself access to my work email 6 months ago. Nick sat on the couch with her laptop and casually deleted messages from friends and colleagues. "We don't need people asking questions," they said. If I dared to change my bank password, Alaric would just call the bank and have it reset. I was 34 years old and still needed permission to spend the money I earned with my own hard work. The trust fund was the last chain that held me to them. My grandfather had set it up decades ago, and it was supposed to belong to me evanderically on my 35th birthday. No signatures needed, no approvals, just a date on the calendar. 3 more days. I refreshed the banking app for the 100th time that morning, watching the countdown timer the bank had added. 72 hours until the money would finally be mine, and they could never take it away again. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my coffee mug. Sleep had been a stranger for weeks. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Alara's voice from when I was 22, telling me I would never survive without them. I had tried to leave once. I packed a small bag at 3 a.m. and made it as far as the driveway before Alaric's car headlights pinned me in place. I came back inside. Always came back. Soraya walked in without knocking like she always did. She dropped her designer bag on the counter and opened my laptop. "Let's see who you've been talking to this week," she said, scrolling through my emails like it was hers. She deleted a note from someone who wanted to carpool. "We don't do carpools," she said. 5 minutes later, Nick's followed. "Phone already filming. Smile, little sister. Content for the family Instagram," she said. She zoomed in on my face. "You look tired. Maybe ease up on late-night scrolling." I said nothing. 3 more days. Alaric appeared in the doorway, glasses low on his nose. "The country club confirmed the private room. 50 guests. Don't make me regret letting you handle this." He didn't wait for an answer. He never did. Alara came last, holding the big leather planner she had used to organize my whole life. "We're wearing navy," she said. "Family color. I already had your dress altered. Try not to gain any weight before Saturday." I stared at the spreadsheet until the numbers blurred. The cursor blinked on the cell marked final payment due. My hand hovered over the send button. One click and the venue was locked. One click and I couldn't back out. I clicked. The confirmation email came instantly. I closed the laptop before they could see the second message under it, from the trust department. Time-stamped for midnight on my birthday. Evandoratic distribution scheduled. No more waiting. 3 more days. I stood up, knees shaking, and carried my mug to the sink. My reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Hollow cheeks, dark circles, no makeup could hide it. For the first time in years I didn't look away. 3 more days and the house, the rules, the constant watching would still be there. But the money wouldn't be theirs anymore. Maybe, just maybe, that would finally be enough to make me leave. 2 nights before the party, they decided to remind me who still owned me. The dining room smelled of rosemary and roasted lamb, the same meal they always served when they wanted to feel like the perfect family. I spent the afternoon setting the table with the good china, polishing silver, and folding napkins into perfect fans. Anything to keep my hands busy and my mind quiet. Soraya arrived first, carrying a thick manila folder instead of the usual bottle of wine. She dropped it on the table with a loud thud. "Since we're all together," she said, her voice sugary, "I thought we could take a little trip down memory lane." She opened the folder. Inside were papers I hadn't seen in 15 years. Letters from college, emails to the dean, a withdrawal form, all stamped with the university seal. Alaric raised an eyebrow, amused. Elara leaned forward, lips curled in that half-smile she wore when someone else did the dirty work. Soraya pulled out the first letter and read it slowly. "Miss Ashby has been placed on probation for repeated absences and not doing well in school. Your family has been notified." Nix snorted. "You almost got kicked out sophomore year. Remember?" I remembered. I had missed 3 weeks of school because Elara decided I needed to go with her to Aspen for a healing retreat, after I tried to rent an apartment off campus. When I came back I was drowning. They never let me forget it. Soraya turned the page. "And here's the best part. Dad had to give $25,000 to the new library wing to make it all disappear." She looked at Alaric with fake adoration. "Such a generous father." Alaric shrugged, cutting into his lamb. "Some investments pay off." Elara reached over and patted my hand. Her rings felt cold. "We only wanted what was best for you, Viralai. You were always so ungrateful." I stared at my plate. The meat suddenly looked gray. My fork trembled. Soraya wasn't finished. She slid a photograph across the table. Me at 21, eyes red from crying outside the registrar's office. Someone had caught the exact moment I realized I wasn't leaving. Nix leaned in. "You cried for days, locked yourself in your room like a child. We had to cancel our cruise because of the drama." I opened my mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "That wasn't drama," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You wouldn't let me breathe." Silence fell like a knife. Alaric set down his knife slowly, his face tight. I said it again. "You wouldn't let me breathe." Elara laughed, sharp and brittle. Listen to her. 34 years old and still playing the victim. Soraya's eyes narrowed. "Careful, Viralai. Some things don't stay buried just because you want them to." I looked at each of them. Really looked. Alaric's jaw was tight. Elara's fingers were white around her wine glass. Soraya smirked like she already won. Nix recorded everything on her phone, probably for later. Something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet, clean break. I pushed my chair back. It scraped against the hardwood floor, loud in the stunned silence. "I'm not hungry," I said. Alaric's voice stopped me at the door. "Sit down." I didn't. I walked out of the dining room, past the family portraits on the wall, past the locked study where Elara kept my documents. My legs carried me upstairs on autopilot. I shut my bedroom door and turned the lock for the first time in years. I stood there shaking. Then I did something I hadn't done since I was 16. I pressed my face into the pillow and screamed until my throat hurt. When it was over, I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, chest heaving. The house was silent below. No footsteps, no shouting, just the weight of what I had done settling over me like a blanket. I had spoken back. For the first time in my adult life I had spoken back and nothing had fallen apart. The day before my birthday they made sure I wouldn't forget the price of speaking up. I was in the gift wrapping room, the one Elara had turned from a guest bedroom. It smelled like navy wrapping paper and silver ribbon, just like the family dress code. Alaric's present sat in the center of the table. A limited edition watch I had secretly ordered 6 weeks earlier using the last of my own savings. A gift that looked generous but had cost me 2 months of skipped lunches. Nix walked into the room without knocking. She had her phone in one hand and a cold coffee in the other. She looked at the half-wrapped box on the table like she was checking a big building to make sure nothing was broken. She was still trying to act like the perfect daughter. She put her coffee down on the old wooden table. The Evander of the cup left a wet circle on the polished surface. I knew I would get in trouble for that later. Cute. I kept folding the wrapping paper, making neat, sharp creases with the special tool Alara had taught me to use when I was just 12 years old. My hands didn't shake anymore. Last night something inside me. I didn't know exactly what it was yet, but it felt like I had a little bit of power now, and that made me feel strange but also strong. Nix pulled out the chair across from me and sat down with a small, fake smile. "You know the money will be in your account, Evander, right?" she said. I didn't look up from the box. "I know," I said. She leaned forward, trying to make herself look important. "So here's the thing," she said, her voice dripping with sharpness. "You get the trust fund. You finally stand up for yourself and leave. And suddenly, we're the bad people who hurt poor little Viralai for 35 years. I tied the ribbon on the box tightly, making sure it was perfect. "What story do you want to be told?" Nix asked, smiling the same fake, perfect smile she used at fancy charity parties. Then she opened her phone and showed it to me. Old pictures, lots of them. There I was at 16, my cheek swollen with an ice pack after one of their punishments. At 18, my wrist was in a brace after falling down the stairs. At 21, in the police station, looking scared and lost, after Alaric convinced the officer it was just a family problem. "These are just the best ones," she said slowly, scrolling through her phone. "I have hundreds more. Different angles. Times and dates. Medical papers I got from the clinic. All ready to go online the second you step out of line." My fingers stayed on the ribbon bow. I could feel my hands tightening around it like I was holding my own little shield. "You'd ruin your own reputation just to make me quiet," I said. Nix laughed, a sharp, cold laugh. "Yes. People will think we tried everything to help you. Therapy, private doctors. We're the heroes. You're the ungrateful daughter who left as soon as you got money. By the time I'm done, no one will rent you an apartment or believe you." Alara appeared in the doorway. She had heard everything. He always did. Her eyes were calm but dangerous. Nix kept talking like she hadn't noticed. "One post online. That's all it takes. Your students' parents will see it. Your principal. Your future employers. Who would hire a teacher with that history?" I stared at the box I had worked on for 20 minutes, making every crease perfect. My voice was calm but firm. "You're scared." Nix's fake smile faltered for a tiny moment. "You're terrified," I said. "Because Evanderoro, the money is mine and you can't take it away anymore. You can't throw me out. You can't control me or tell me who I can see. Now you're looking for something else to scare me with." Alara stepped closer, her voice soft but dangerous. "Your sister is protecting the family image, something you've never understood. Stop being dramatic." I looked at her, really looked. The woman who had tricked doctors into saying I was unstable. The woman who smiled at school meetings while I sat in the car with a split lip. The woman who still slept peacefully every night, knowing exactly where my passport was. I stood up slowly. "No," I said. The word hung in the air like a bell that nobody could ignore. Alara's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" I said no. "Post the pictures. Tell any story you want. Evanderoro, the money is mine and I will never set foot in this house again. You can't stop me." Nix jumped across the table and grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave a bruise. I didn't pull away. I leaned in close until our faces were just inches apart. My heart pounded in my chest. "The mess," I whispered, "was never mine." For the first time she let go first. I walked out of the gift room, past Alara who was frozen and silent, down the hallway lined with pictures of our family, pictures that told lies. My wrist hurt where Nix had held it, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Evanderoro couldn't come fast enough. The morning of my 35th birthday, everything they had built for 35 years finally broke. I woke to the soft vibration of my phone on the nightstand. The screen showed a message from the private bank. I hadn't been allowed to open a bank account in over 10 years. The message said the money had been transferred. The account was now all in my name, Viralai Ashby. The balance, $4,720,500. Effective 12:01 a.m. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then I smiled. A real, honest smile, the first one in a very long time. I got out of bed, put on jeans and my oldest sweater, the one Alara had thrown out years ago but I rescued from the donation pile. I walked downstairs barefoot. The house was too quiet. Alaric was in the kitchen, tie on, coffee in hand, staring at his phone like it had betrayed him. Alara stood next to him, her face pale, holding the counter for support. They hadn't seen me yet. "It's gone," Alaric said, his voice empty. "All of it. Transferred at midnight. She has full control." Alara's knuckles turned white. "Call the lawyer. He says it's ironclad. Her grandfather made sure no one could touch it after 35. Not even us." I leaned against the doorframe. "Good morning," I said, calm but with a small spark of triumph in my voice. They spun around. Alaric's eyes narrowed. Alara's mouth opened and closed several times like she couldn't believe it. I held up my phone so they could see the balance. "Looks like the leash just snapped," I said. Alaric calmed himself first. He put his cup down slowly. "We need to talk." Soraya and Nix came 20 minutes later because of frantic texts. They stormed in wearing workout clothes, faces red from exercise. The four of them made a half circle in the living room like they were a court. Alaric spoke first, calm like he was at a business meeting. "Obviously this is a big change. Feelings are high but we are family. We handle things together." He slid a paper across the table. It was a voluntary partial disclaimer of inheritance. That would send half the trust fund into a new family foundation with them as bosses. All I had to do was sign. Alara added softly, "You don't want people thinking you left your parents as soon as you got money." Soraya crossed her arms. "Be reasonable, Viralai." Nix just glared at me. I picked up the pen, turned it over in my hand and then put it down. "No." The word hit the room like a gunshot. Alaric's calm face disappeared. "Excuse me." I said no, I repeated. "The money is mine legally and permanently. I'm not giving any back." Alara stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "After everything we've done for you, after everything you've done." My voice got louder before I could stop. "You mean locking my passport in a safe, watching every dollar I spent, dragging me back every time I tried to leave? That's what you did." Soraya started to step forward, but Nix grabbed her arm, her face twisted with rage. Alaric's hand moved faster than I could expect. He slapped me across the face. It hurt so much my head snapped sideways, my ear ringing. I tasted blood. Before I could even recover, Nix shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back, my heel catching the corner of the glass table. My temple hit it. Pain exploded white hot. I slid to the floor, pressing my hand to my left eye as warm blood ran down my face. For a moment no one moved. Then Alara whispered, "Oh God, look at her face." Alaric breathed heavily. "Get up. Clean yourself. We have the party in 4 hours." I pushed myself to sit. Blood dripped onto the marble floor. Soraya sounded worried. "That's going to bruise badly." Nix knelt down, her voice shaking. "Concealer won't cover this. What do we do?" Alaric towered over me. "You will put on the navy dress. You will smile. You will tell everyone you walked into a cabinet." I laughed. Wet, broken laugh. "You still think you can control the story?" I took my phone from my pocket with bloody fingers, pointed the camera at my face and took 3 clear pictures. My eye was already swelling, blood drying in a line from my temple to my jaw. I sent them to Erilyn. Subject: had happened. Come now. Police notified. Hold on. I looked up at the 4 of them staring down at me. Change of plans, I said quietly. I'm still going to the party. Alaric relaxed a little. Good girl. I smiled with split lips but not at them. The drive to the restaurant felt like 20 minutes of forever. Alaric gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Alara sat next to him, twisting her pearls until the strand nearly snapped. In the back seat, Soraya used her phone, adding a filter to soften the purple bruise on my cheek. Nix typed fast, birthday girl ready to celebrate. Post. I said nothing. My fingers stayed on my phone, thumb hovering over Erilyn's last message. ETA 12 minutes. Officers with me. We pulled up at the country club. The valet ran to help. Alaric cut the engine and said low, sharp, You will smile. You will say you walked into a cabinet reaching for a glass. I nodded slowly, pretending to agree. Inside, I felt strong and free for the first time in my life. The leash was gone. The control was gone. And they couldn't touch me anymore. One wrong word and all the money I just inherited could disappear. Lawyers could take it all away. I understood this perfectly and nodded once. Soraya stood on my left and Nix on my right. They were holding my arms really tightly, almost hard enough to hurt me. Alaric put his hand on the small of my back, guiding me like I was a fragile doll. Together they walked me through the big double doors into a private dining room. Inside, 50 people turned at the same time. The silence hit like a heavy wall. It was so quiet that it almost felt like the air itself had stopped moving. People froze with forks halfway to their mouths. Someone accidentally dropped a champagne glass. It smashed loudly on the hardwood floor. I could feel all the eyes on me like tiny burning lasers. My eye was swollen and completely shut from the morning. A dark bruise was spreading up to my temple. There was dried blood on my face from where they had hurt me. I hadn't been allowed to wash it off. Alaric's smile didn't change. He looked calm and happy, like nothing had happened. He raised his glass and said, "Thank you all for coming to celebrate our daughter's 35th birthday. She had a little accident this morning, clumsy as ever, but nothing stops a Ashby." Some people tried to laugh nervously. Their laughter was quiet and shaky, and it died out fast. That's when Tavian, Soraya's 9-year-old son, suddenly jumped up from the children's table. He had been sitting quietly since we arrived, hands clenched in his lap, trying to stay invisible. Now he shouted, his voice high and desperate. "Stop lying," he yelled. "I saw you hurt her this morning. All of you." Soraya lunged toward him. "Tavian, sit down," she said, grabbing for him. "No," he cried, twisting away from her. Tears ran down his cheeks. "Grandpa hit her. Aunt Nix pushed her into the table. And there was blood. You told me to say she fell, but she didn't." Gasps spread across the room. Phones quickly came up to start recording. Alaric grabbed my arm even harder. "He's confused," he said, trying to make it sound like Tavian didn't know what he was talking about. The main doors opened again. My twin sister Erilyn walked in first. Her hair was messy from the wind outside. Her eyes were locked on me and I could feel the warmth of her gaze. Behind her came 2 detectives with badges already visible on their belts. Caius and Lysandra Draven were professional and calm. Caius carried a very thick folder pressed to his chest like it was armor. Erilyn didn't yell. He didn't need to. Her voice was calm but strong enough for everyone to hear. "She's not the only one," she said. "And today it ends." Erilyn held up her phone and pressed play. Elara's small voice filled the room, coming from a recording from when we were 16. "We did what we had to do to keep her in line," the voice said. "Some children only learn one way." Another recording played, this time of Alaric from the same year. "If she ever tries to leave again, we'll make sure no one believes a word she says," he said. The color drained from everyone's faces. The room went silent. Erilyn stopped the recording and looked around. "I have hours of this," she said. "Medical reports. Photographs. Witness statements from neighbors who heard the fights. The officers outside have warrants. This isn't a discussion anymore." Alaric tried to step forward, but one of the detectives blocked him. Elara's hand flew to her throat. "You can't," she whispered. Tavian ran over to me, wrapping his small arms around my waist. He sobbed into my sweater. I held him with the arm that wasn't being squeezed by Soraya, whose grip had suddenly loosened. Caius Draven stepped closer and opened the thick folder. Inside were documents stacked inches high, all official and devastating. "We've been waiting for this day since Virilai showed up on our doorstep at 16 with a broken wrist and nowhere else to go," he said quietly. "Everything is here." A woman near the front whispered, "Oh my God," and her phone picked it up. Nix's face crumpled, panic spreading across it. Soraya looked frantically around for a way to escape. Alaric stared at me, something breaking behind his eyes. I met his gaze and for the first time in 35 years I didn't look away. When the officers asked Alaric to step aside, everyone's attention turned toward the detectives. One raised his hand. "Everyone stay where you are. This is now an active scene." Phones were already out, some people recording live. The taller officer moved toward Soraya and Nix. "Hands where I can see them," he commanded. Soraya laughed, high and brittle. This is ridiculous. She's our sister. The officer didn't smile. He pointed to fresh scratch marks on my forearm for parallel lines still beaded with blood. Those match the pattern on your fingernails, ma'am, he said. Nix's face went slack. The officer gently but firmly cuffed both sisters, wrists behind their backs. Soraya tried to step back and bumped into a table, knocking over a centerpiece. Within seconds, both sisters were secured and staring at the floor. Alaric's voice cracked as he shouted across the room. This is a family matter. You have no right. A man in a navy suit near the front stood up. It was Evander Vey, Alaric's biggest business partner for 20 years. He looked sick, but then he said quietly, "Not anymore," and then louder to the officers, "Do what you need to do." People started moving. Chairs scraped across the floor. Purses were grabbed. A woman whispered, "I can't be here," and hurried toward the exit. Others simply walked out without saying a word. A second detective knelt beside me. "Ma'am, we need photos of your injuries for evidence. Are you able to stand?" I nodded. He helped me up. Flash after flash went off as he took pictures of my swollen eye, the cut above my eyebrow, and the bruises already forming on my upper arms from when they dragged me from the house. Harlan Draven spoke to the lead officer in a low, clear voice. "We've been documenting everything since she was 16. Medical records from 3 ER visits. Photographs. Sworn statements from neighbors who heard the yelling through open windows. It's all in there." The officer flipped through the thick envelope and raised his eyebrows. "This is extensive," he said. Lysandra stood nearby, holding my free hand and squeezing it once. Elara was crying silently, her makeup streaked with tears. "You're destroying us," Alaric whispered. "After everything we gave you." He tried to step toward me one last time, but the detective stopped him immediately. I saw fear in Alaric's eyes for the first time. Real fear. I didn't feel proud or triumphant. I just felt empty, like a house that had finally been unlocked after decades, with all the windows left open so the air could move freely again. Paramedics arrived minutes later. They sat me on a stretcher in the lobby while people continued streaming past. Some paused to ask if I was okay. Others pretended not to see me. A cold pack was pressed to my temple. Someone draped a blanket over my shoulders. Erilyn never left my side. She held my hand and traced small circles on my knuckles with her thumb, the way she did when we were kids hiding under the covers during thunderstorms. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, Tavian broke free from a club employee and ran over. His face was blotchy from crying. "I'm sorry, Aunt Viralai," he choked out. I didn't want to lie. I reached down and touched his hair. "You told the truth. That's the bravest thing anyone did today." They lifted me into the ambulance. Erilyn climbed in after me, still holding my hand. The doors closed. The siren stayed off. We pulled away from the club slowly, watching the building shrink in the rear window until it was just another mansion on a hill. I leaned my head against the padding and closed my eyes. For the first time in 35 years, I breathed without waiting for someone to tell me to stop. 6 months later, I woke up in my own apartment. I didn't check the locks 3 times. Sunlight poured through the east window of my little 2-bedroom apartment. There were no gates, no cameras pointing at the front door. Just birds singing and the occasional dog walker passing by. The permanent restraining orders were granted in under 30 days. Soraya and Nix pleaded to reduce their charges. They got 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service each, and mandatory anger management classes twice a week. Alaric and Elara were ordered to stay at least 500 yards away. No contact, no exceptions. Ashby Development lost 70% of its pending contracts in the weeks that followed. Clients didn't want their names anywhere near the bad headlines. The club membership was quietly revoked. Invitations stopped coming. The family that once owned half the skyline suddenly couldn't even get a table at their favorite steakhouse. I used part of the trust to buy my apartment outright. No mortgage. No co-signers. No one to answer to. The rest went into a savings account that only I could access. I still teach 3rd grade. A different school, a new district, fresh faces. The principal knew my story before hiring me. She said, "Courage like yours belongs in front of children." Some nights I still jerk awake at the sound of a slammed cabinet or a raised voice on TV. It took 4 solid months before I stopped flinching when a man walked too close behind me in the grocery store. My therapist calls it normal. I call it proof that the scars are real even when they can't be seen. Every Tuesday evening I drive to the community center downtown and sit in a circle with women who look like I used to. Tired eyes. Careful smiles. Shoulders curved inward as if bracing for the next hit. I always say the same thing first. You're not crazy. You're not alone. Then I listen. I share pieces of my story when it helps. I hand out my phone number like it's nothing because now it really is nothing. Just a number, not a leash. Erilyn moved back to the city. She rents an apartment across the hall. Some mornings we drink coffee on my balcony and don't talk about the past at all. Some nights we do. Either way, she's there. I never forgave them. I never will. Forgiveness isn't required for healing. People ask if I miss my family. I tell them the truth. I miss the idea of a family. The reality was never mine to miss. The lesson I carry now, the one I repeat to every woman who sits across from me shaking, is simple. Your silence protects them. Your voice protects you. The moment you decide you're worth protecting, the entire world shifts to make room for it. That's the only inheritance I ever needed.